Hi everyone, and welcome to another episode of VUFOA-TV. Today we have Chase Kloetzke with us. Chase is a ufologist and radio talk show host in America. She's also a researcher on paranormal activity, strange creatures, and has a fascination with ancient civilizations. And Chase is also an author of 2 books. One's called Admissible, and the other one is Are Aliens Really Real? So welcome, Chase. It's great to have you on the show.
I'm so happy to be here. Thanks for inviting me.
Thank you very much. It's lovely to have you here. So we'd just like to start off with just having a bit of a quick question on starting at the beginning, really, and what sort of triggered your interest in things that were strange and mysterious?
I think there's something in all of us a little bit about the mystery, and definitely something that at one point in life we all think about what's next, what life after death type of things. But for me, as corny as it sounds, it started with a book, like most, called Chariots of the God by Eric Von Daniken.
I own it.
Yeah, just awesome. And, I didn't necessarily agree with everything that he said, but the questions he asked absolutely intrigued me, and I just found a whole new way of thinking and realized there's so much more out there, and I'm very drawn to that.
What do you see as the challenges in UFO investigation? Yeah, go on.
Definitely. I honestly think that most of our challenges is in evidence, and really for the investigators to understand what evidence is. I believe that we have a lot of cases that offer the type of evidence that absolutely would be admissible in a court of law. Any prosecutor would take it. And I think it's the way we present our information. UFOs is in the top 3 searches on the internet still to this day. I mean, it's such a hot topic. People are so interested. And yet, we're still getting, the tongue-in-cheek and the, kind of ridicule from the media. And I just don't understand with all the evidence that we have. Because I think most ufologists agree that we're kind of past proving if UFOs are real. We believe they are and have proven that.
Yeah.
We know they're entering our atmosphere and interfering with humans. So really now the question is, really, who are they and what do they want? And for the public. So I think our greatest challenge is definitely in understanding evidence, putting our case files together so that the public understands what we have.
Yeah, that's a very good point. I think I really like that point about the fact that yes, I think the phenomenon itself has been proved. So where are they coming from and why? That's the questions now that are so important. And yeah, I think evidence is an important thing, and I think that a lot of people really get hooked up on photographs and video footage, and for me that's not really proof of anything at all, and it takes so much more work than just lazily posting a picture and saying, oh, that's a UFO. Is it? Have we spoken to witnesses about this? Have we been to the location? Have we done test shots with the camera? These are the things that we need to do. So yeah, I think you're right. I think that evidence most certainly is something that we really need to be focusing on getting good evidence.
And we keep feeding the skeptics and the debunkers. There's a difference between a skeptic and a debunker, but we keep feeding them every time we don't do this right. Every time we post a picture and, kind of get caught off guard a little, and, and you really have to understand how a camera works to really know how bizarre some of these effects can be, and they absolutely look anomalous, and they absolutely look paranormal or UFO, and they're just not.
That's right. You take your average handy cam that any punter's got at home, and he films Venus, and it's on autofocus, and Venus explodes into a beautiful array of colors and flashing lights, and then you see people presenting this as UFO evidence, and there's just and that's the stuff that really feeds those debunkers. The media, they laugh and scoff at it because this phenomenon it has to be evidence-based. You can't go with anything else. Anything else is delusional.
Well, and that's the only thing the public is going to understand. For people that, like to watch a TV show every now and then and, ponder, once in a while, are UFOs real? And they're not in the field like you and I.
Yeah.
They have no idea that there is real physical evidence. There is cases out there that are absolutely at admissible level and have been professionally done. They just they'll get it on a TV show every once in a while, like a Rendlesham or Robert Salas, and his story about Maelstrom,
yes.
Where the nukes, came down and literally went offline. And, we just hear some of these things, and you look at the credibility of the witnesses, the corroborating evidence of witness statements, the reaction of the military after these events, and and the physical evidence. Rendlesham offered, tons of radiation trace evidence. They had, physical evidence from the trees, and so you put these together and really put them out to the public so that they can understand it.
Yes.
And what evidence is. And then it makes our job a little easier when we have investigators out there preparing these types of case files appropriately.
Yes, that's correct. And I think, a lot of people think that this is glamorous work, or that UFO investigation, is exciting. And it is, but there's a lot of mundane ticking boxes, cross-checking, being meticulous, and that really is the core of what investigating is, I believe.
You're absolutely right. It is those little details of sitting literally for 3 days, and barely moving from a library seat, just doing the background on an area. So you're right. It's those kind of details. And these cases most of them cannot be done in 24, 48 hours. So, unfortunately, the biggest piece of information the general public has on UFOs are some of these TV shows, which, they almost are trying to create characters, they're all in leather and, or they look like Lara Croft wannabes. It's just not really like that.
No.
However, it is very exciting. And, if you like a mystery and you like detail and to get out there, it can be very exciting.
Yes, most definitely. And and I think like I have a great love of history as well. So exploring historical cases, that does fire myself up in the belly very much. And being able to find new information and new witnesses from cases gone from the past is very exciting.
Yeah, or witnesses that can now talk that couldn't maybe 20 years ago. Certain cases and information has been declassified, and they're free to do so now. And we found that in Maelstrom, and of course a lot in Roswell, and some of our bigger ones. But for the most part, it really is just staying on a story. I call them cold case files, and the historical cases are still yielding new evidence and very important facts and new testimonies. So they're definitely always worth a follow-up. And I keep a contact list of my case files, and I try to keep up with witnesses and, just you keep that rapport going.
Yeah, absolutely. And now, what qualities do you think that it takes to be a successful investigator? What do you think a person needs to have, to be a success in this field?
Honestly, I think probably a good case file, good case management. Honestly, it's to understand how to organize, plan out, use a chronology of events, and to really systematically piece together this entire case so that you'd be proud to pass it on. You could hand it to Richard Dolan. You could hand it to some of our greats and be very proud of the work you've done. And I think, to me, that would make the most successful investigator. Understanding what evidence is, understanding, making those connections into your labs, getting things done. and analyzed and really crossing T's. It's really about pre-planning, planning, and staying very organized and focused. But it all has to do with that case file.
Yes, yeah, absolutely. That's around which everything sort of hangs, doesn't it? Really. So that's very, very important. What over your time that you've been doing it, what have been some of the best cases that you've seen and that have made you go, "Yep, I believe that's a genuine case"?
I've seen so much. Oh my gosh. And, I've done everything from I've been in the swamps in Louisiana looking for the Honey Island swamp monster to Peru looking for Nephilim, the giants, the elongated skulls, and literally just took about 100 forensic samples while we were working down there in Peru and Bolivia. And really, I've just seen so much, talked to so many different types of witnesses. I believe a lot of our answers are going to come from abductees and contactees, but honestly, I think it's the investigators that are going to break these cases wide open by being diligent and critical thinkers and, staying on the trail, mostly.
Absolutely, yeah, most definitely, most definitely. And I'm just interested to also know, Chase, is what's your opinion on the big word known as disclosure? When will we see it? How and how do you think it's going to manifest itself?
I think, in my humble opinion, that it's going to manifest itself when they're ready for us to know that they're here. I don't believe disclosure is going to come from our governments. They have, there's no payoff for them to do so.
Yeah.
They'd have to admit years of deception to the American people. Can you imagine what they would have to say to the people that they have ridiculed, the military careers ruined, the pilots? It's just a huge bubble. And to tell you the truth, I don't think they know. I don't think they have the kind of information that they could successfully disclose anyway. Does the President of the United States know about UFOs? Probably not. He's a temporary employee.
Yeah.
And there would be no reason to read him in on something of that importance if those people don't trust him to begin with.
Absolutely.
And I think this is a breakaway control group. And it just makes sense. Our military works that way. It's kind of like when President Reagan came out and talked about the Star Wars program, and that humanity would see each other as brothers and sisters if there was an outside threat. Well, anybody hearing a lot of information about that program? It did not go away. It just went dark.
Yeah, that's correct. Absolutely, absolutely. Yeah, I think also that it's definitely it's not going to come from the governments, and it'll be an event of some sort that will basically be, well, look, there it is. I mean, you can't argue with it. There it is. And I think, yeah, you're right about the governments. I mean, there would be way too many lawsuits for them to deal with. Finally saying that, yeah, look, shucks. We did know about this all along. Sorry, guys. So which leads me to another question. What's your thoughts on Roswell? And do you believe that it is the holy grail of ufology, or are there other cases that do give us more?
There's definitely more cases that we know of. It's Roswell's not the only crash,
Yeah.
or landing, or even what I would think would be government contact with extraterrestrials.
Yeah.
However, I do believe Roswell happened. Really go into the back rooms, unprecedented for non-personnel or employees, I guess I should say,
Yeah.
and especially foreigners.
Yeah.
And they ushered us right in that back room. We're looking at rows and rows and rows and rows of pottery and remains, and they brought us right into their examination room, and we saw a mummy that had not been put out for display yet. They were still testing and doing all their work on it, and we were the first people to lay eyes other than the staff.
Wow.
And only the lab staff, which was amazing. And they found out our interest was really the elongated skulls. And of course, we're talking to them about the anomalies, because there are some skulls, Ben, that are obviously cradle deformation.
Yes.
They're obviously, been headboarded.
Yes.
But then there are some that are just a little bigger than normal. And the capacity inside is much larger, the brain section. And they have red blonde hair in Peru. And there's only one parietal plate. And there's so many differences. The skull thickness itself is a little denser than a human. The jawbone is really way more robust. It's just a totally different look. And when we were down there, we didn't examine like a dozen. We examined hundreds of these. It got to the point where we're in a necropolis, and I'm in this hold, and I dig up 5 skulls. I find 5 of them in this little place. And of course, there's remains everywhere. You literally had to step on them sometimes, because the top of this desert was so littered with them. There was nowhere way else to walk. Pottery, Inca pottery, just tossed everywhere and broken. And it's really the grave robbers that are looking for the jewelry and the textiles and the gold and silver, because the elongated skulls, we assume, and evidence is showing that only the royals got to do that.
Yeah.
So of course, royal burials usually had, good stuff with them, and they literally just throw the heads, throw the bones. They're just looking for the good stuff. And why the pottery is always found broken, even though that's worth something on the black market, especially the Inca eyes, or, the Nazca eyes, things like that, is they shove sticks, like these rods, in the ground, waiting to hear the pottery break. That's how they know they found a grave. So this stuff's littered everywhere. And so we literally just, digging things up. It got so crazy, and we were so familiar with these skulls that Aaron could show one. He could be, 20 feet away and say, "Hey, Chase," and I'm like, "Yeah, headboarded." You could see the parietal, you could see the sutures, and that's how good we got at the end. And they're just that different that we could spot them eventually.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And so were you guys able to? So any of these skulls able to come to America at all, or is that
no
possible?
There's I don't know if that's possible. The Peruvian government right now, they realize the value, and they're learning more and more. We have to remember, we still, to this day, in modernity, do not know where the Paracas people came from or what happened to them.
Yeah.
And there's such a study going on, and such a huge interest in the whole world is, they love these skulls, these elongated skulls. And, we find them in Egypt. But the South American ones, it's because it was so prominent at a certain time. And, the Antiquities Department hasn't got them all yet and hasn't hidden them away. It's so funny to go through Peru and Bolivia and find these little places, and they just have these skulls, or these little museums in the back of a store. And you walk in the back of the store, and behind glass they have like full elongated alien looking mummies. And that's just how it is down there. It's a very third world. There were places where the poverty was palpable. It's hard to see, very difficult to see. You almost feel guilty, and it was just crazy. And they still live. Most of the country is, they're trading llamas, and there's no electricity. They're still burning oil. There's a huge part of Peru that, if you want a homestead, you can. So it's nothing to see full towns of just 4 posts in the ground with like a plastic tarp. Around the poles are the walls and a top, and they live like this for years and years and years, and it's just how it is. hundreds and thousands of people live like, and they're all together in these little areas, living in these plastic boxes.
Wow, that's amazing. And
Yeah.
did you guys do any filming when you were down there? Are you producing a program on it, or a documentary?
Yes, Richard Shaw and L.A. Marzulli have a documentary series, and it's called Watchers.
Yeah.
Brilliant series. Oh my goodness, it's everywhere, and it's huge in the Christian prophecy world. It's just now finding its audience and the attention of ufologists, which is good.
Yeah.
I've been a fan, like I said, a couple of years. I ran across them and really started studying, and it's shocking because honestly, Ben, they have some of the best UFO evidence. And, here's these, I kind of tease them and say, friggin' Christians are getting all the good stuff. What's up with this, guys, But they're brilliant, and they're tenacious, and they're awesome. And, being with them was such a treat. I had a little worry because I'm not evangelic. I'm not really a very religious person.
Yeah.
And I was wondering how I was going to get along with all this. And I adored them, and we just worked. It was amazing, and shared theory, and their documentary. Are you kidding?
I still got you.
It stayed on?
It stayed on, yeah. It almost disappeared.
Oh my goodness, yes. But they were invited to the International UFO Congress, and they submitted to film, and they have like a little film festival. And even to my amazement, I was so pleasantly surprised. Watcher 7, it's called Further Evidence, and the evidence that they're presenting in the UFO community, like I said, outstanding. And they picked up Best Film and the People's Choice Award in a UFO community. They're calling this the deception. And, I was thrilled for them because they deserve it. And part of that was Watchers 8. When we were down in Peru, it was part of the 8th documentary series. They're working on 8 and 9. They're just brilliant.
Wow, who would have thought? Who would have thought we would have lived to have seen that, eh?
Honestly, I kind of teased them and said, you guys, I'm not sure the nuts and bolts community is in a whole is ready for this information because, I'm kind of kicking and screaming myself.
Yeah.
However, this is not where I wanted to go. I do not want this to end up being biblical prophecy. And these, fallen angels are absolutely flesh and blood. Of course they are. They're described. And truthfully, alien, angel, if you could, you could actually reverse that psychology just a bit from Ancient Aliens when he says, these weren't angels and God, they were extraterrestrial, misidentified. Well, some of these things that they're saying, I don't know. We have documentation that says they knew exactly what they were talking about. They talked about a chain of command. There's archangels, there's cherubs. There's a systematic level of who's in charge of what. I don't know, guys. I don't know. It's going to be interesting. I don't want it to go here, though. But I have to follow the evidence, Ben. And
yes. Yeah,
and
absolutely.
It's aggravating me. If this is where it ends up, I am not going to be happy. I want beings from other planets. I don't want angels and demons and big warfare here.
No, I think it's great thinking that you're applying to, as you say, like you've done the lights in the sky, you've done the, the abductees, and we've done all these things, and you really do have to go across that whole spectrum, don't you? Because if you close your mind to anything, then you could be closing your mind to the truth potentially.
Yeah, and it's kind of the ufologists, and I have lots of friends who believe this way, and that's okay. But, they're just like, oh, that paranormal stuff's crap, because we do not like to mix our sciences, do we?
No.
But, I have found that they're all connected. Most of the people I have worked with and investigated, have experienced a plague for the rest of their lives of paranormal and high strangeness after any kind of encounter, even if it was only one. And I just think it's all connected somehow. And to me, it points to that dimension that we just don't understand. Because Bigfoot looks like our kind of monkey, we assume it's dumber than we are. He couldn't possibly know how to jump a dimension. Look at him.
Oh, no, exactly. And humans aren't known for their prejudice, are they?
Exactly. Absolutely. Or even humanity in ourselves. Honestly, Ben, I'm standing at Pumapuku, and to see it with your own eyes, come on. Oh my gosh, this is so a power plant.
Yeah.
It's not even a joke. Just the way it was built. They'll tell you, the Bolivian people that are there will tell you that they made it overnight. Again, the oral history is just amazing. It's a power plant. And why couldn't they have a power plant? Because these were not made with copper chisels. There's no way. No way. And to see it in person, they look real rough, and you walk up and you run your hand down it, and it's as smooth as my desktop or my dining room table. It's just... Now tell me that was a chisel. Yeah. That was machined. There's holes in borders that are perfectly spaced apart. Perfect holes, drills.
Oh.
And there's things that are done there, Ben, that we couldn't do today. It would take the Army Corps of Engineers 15 years to plan it and figure it out on paper, another 20 years, it's just brilliant. And I think we have to stop. If there was that flood, if humanity was wiped out before, who's to say they were behind us? Oh, that's right. Darwinism said that.
Yes.
Yes. So if we have to step out of that paradigm and believe in intelligent design, whether it's God or aliens helped us, but intelligent design, then it kind of makes a little more sense that there could have been humans here way before us that had the type of technology and advanced leadership. Think even fallen angels. Again, they're eternal. They're brilliant. They have the view of the universe. They know what's going on in a cosmos. And they get sent here. They're exiled. They're put on this planet. Oh my gosh, Ben. They just had to use what they had, but they had the knowledge.
Yes.
So they used these rustic, tools, because if they had that chain of command, which is described in many of our ancient texts, then they kind of had, and the mission-minded, because they're messengers and they have roles. It's kind of like our military, isn't it?
It is.
So the first thing they'd want to do is establish communications.
Yes.
And establish a home base. And then they'd want to spread it out so that they could go out and look at what else they could find. Just like a SEAL team or any other command that would be struck somewhere. They had the information, but they needed to they kind of had to MacGyver everything, right? That's an American saying from a TV show. But, kind of give me a Q-tip and a jackknife and you can build me a mall. And I think that's exactly, a possibility as well. Why wouldn't they have been able to understand a more natural type of situation and just use what they had, but they had the intelligence to pull it off. They knew what they had to do. They may not have the comm, like the little Star Trek thing, like Scotty, but they did know how to make it work with sound or with vibrations or with ley lines and sacred sites and, using the Earth's own magnetic fields. So these are things that we really have to look into. Aliens, angels, humans, it doesn't matter. What I learned standing in front of these is that they're higher technology. That's what I walked away absolutely sure.
Yes, yeah, and that's a great point too, because it's not until you're standing in front of these great places, and you can look at it in a book, you can watch a documentary, but when you're actually physically there and you're in the presence of it, I think that's when you
Hmm.
really do get a sense of what you're actually looking at.
Well, and those H blocks in Pumapuku.
Yeah.
Um, I I thought they were bigger. They're littler than me. They're only like 3.5, 4 foot tall. I'm thinking these H blocks are massive, and they were not. And yet in Tiwanaku, they had you see it on Ancient Aliens all the time. These like faces coming out of this little wall,
Yeah.
and it's this whole square little place. There were so many, and they're so intricate, and yet in the center is this statue of the leader, and he has a beard and mustache. It's just the strangest place, and I loved every second. And just one, three more steps down the way, and we found, just intelligent civilization. Period.
Yeah.
It was awesome. We also investigated the Aka stones. Very controversial.
Yeah.
I can't talk too much about what we did with the investigations of the skulls, and of course the Inca stones, because that's property of production. And LA and Richard have really done so much work on it. They deserve that reveal themselves.
Yes.
And we were just team members, and it was weird not to be leading an expedition and not be in charge. I had to button it a few times.
Oh, look, that's amazing. So I have watched a couple of other interviews that you've done, and you're saying that you're fairly new to the crypto world.
Yeah, I've only been doing that a few years. Out of all our sciences, it's the one with the most success. We've actually found species that science absolutely said was extinct or not possible.
Yeah.
So that's just cool. That's cool as crap. I love that.
Yeah.
And so cryptids is definitely on my list. I love them, and I've just done so much of the Bigfoot, and that's huge in the United States. That I just love all of it. But my favorite cryptid right now is I want to go to Puerto Rico, and that chupacabras.
Yes.
I don't know if it's my first or what, my first interest, but very different from the Texas chupacabras, which is not a cryptid. That's obviously some sort of hybrid dog, but that little Puerto Rican one that's supposed to be little claws and red eyes and little alien teeth. Man, I would love to do an investigation on that one.
Just sink your teeth into that. Yeah, most definitely. And I just want to also touch briefly too on the radio shows that you're working on. You work on 2 radio shows, Project White Paper and Encounters. Can you perhaps explain to us a little bit how you got involved in that and what both shows are hoping to achieve?
It's when I left MUFON. I literally didn't know what to do with myself. I think when you're usually involved as heavily as I was in big organizations, I really didn't look outside of that very often.
Yeah.
And I found myself a little like, oh my gosh, what do I do? And I got a phone call. It actually took about 2 weeks to convince me to do this show as a co-host. And, eventually the host, he had other things going on, so he left, unfortunately. And, so the show's been mine ever since. But I'm so glad. It was such a blessing in disguise because, as you know, you get to talk to people all over the world, different ideas, different things. We stay current, fresh. We kind of know what's going on. The networking's tight.
Yeah.
Because we all call each other after. Like, Ben, you can call me anytime. I'd be like, oh, Ben, what do you need? It's awesome. It's the best job I ever had. But I feature the boots on the ground. Like, I'm looking to interview the investigators and the cases and the witnesses. I do throw the rock stars on every once in a while, like Richard Dolan and, the big boys.
Yeah.
Oh, those boys.
Yeah.
And, but it really is, alternative media. If people are interested in the truth of what's going on in these, unknown fields, even ghosts, they have to watch watch your videos. They have to listen to your broadcast, read your newsletters, to anything that we're doing. It's all in alternative media.
Yes.
Mainstream media, lost that one a while ago. So that really is it. It's just a way to have a voice out here and to give the public as much great information as we can provide them. Encounters is kind of a guilty pleasure because I share the mic with Richard Dolan, Peter Robbins, Mac Maloney, Race Hobbs, and we just added Dr. Aaron Judkins. And, that it's just a guilty pleasure. I mean, sit with the boys and we do a 2-hour special on the Vatican.
Yeah.
Or, Vatican UFOs and, what are they doing in Mount Graham? What are they doing with Project Lucifer?
Yeah.
Horus! So it's just good stuff right there.
Yeah, that sounds great. And look, you're certainly covering a lot of bases. Like, with you've been involved in groups. You've taken your hand to writing books. You're on radio. You've been out in Peru. Out in fields in Tennessee. So it's just great to see someone who is who's so passionately embracing every aspect of exploring the mysterious world that we have.
Oh, I never thought of it like that. And again, my grandson wrote the first book, and I really just handed Richard Dolan a bunch of, this is what you do in the field. Now turn that into a book, mister. And that's what he did. So he's like, what do you mean by this? Well, I did write a lot. It was also edited by Nick Redfern.
Oh,
that's really it's really important to mention that because,
yes.
He's just such a sweetheart, and he's so well known out here, especially in the crypto world.
Yes, absolutely. Well, Chase, it's been fantastic talking to you, and we've spoken for about 2.5 hours now. So we're going to have a lot of fun putting this down into a package that people can listen to. So I just wanted to remind our audience that they can go to www.chasekloetzke.com. That's your website. And also to check out the books Admissible and Are Aliens Really Real, which would be available on Amazon. So again, thank you for your time.
You're welcome, and I had such a good time, man. Please stay in touch. You rock, mister.